Welcome to Talking in Stations for May 17th. This is Manneral here with Abby Rova. How you doing, Abby?
How you doing?
Just dipped out. Okay, there you are.
Sorry.
It's all right. And we also have with us Shen. How you doing, Shen?
Doing well. Hello, everyone.
Shen's actually relatively new but knowledgeable player from the one of the Chinese alliances called Army of Mango. So he is in Esoteria, I believe, at this time. Sound right?
Yep, we're officially moved into Esoteria from Ole Miss.
All right, cool. Well, today was a big day. We had a new announcement for something that has plagued EVE Online for a very long time called, I guess it's called AFK cloaking. What do you guys want to describe what that is?
Yeah, so AFK camping or cloaky camping, whatever you want to call it, is basically when a person or an entity will log in to a system, often just after downtime. They will have a ship with a cloak on it, probably a Tech 3 cruiser or a Tech 3 or Tech 2 cruiser or Tech 3 cruiser, hunting ship capable of lighting a cyno. Possibly, maybe it's just a stealth bomber, but they will sit there cloaked up all day in the system, creating the feeling of a threat or a possible threat. So, someone living in that system in nullsec doesn't feel like they want to do what they'd like to do because if they undock to mine or they undock to rat, they could potentially be dropped on and killed. And it's the kind of thing where the person will log in and for long periods of time. I mean, 12 hours to even a full 23 hours, right? It's a consistent threat to a person or a player's gameplay.
Yeah, it's basically fear projection, and so the worst thing about it, from a game perspective, is you don't know when the person who's actually in front of the computer are there actually playing the game, right? So you have a chance to be dropped down at any second, while they may be just in their bed sleeping, right? That's just not healthy for active gameplay.
Yeah, I like that fear projection. That's a nice way to put it. And it's not fair that one guy gets to just log in and go about his business for 12, 15 hours, and the other guy's sweating, thinking, is he there? Isn't he there? Is he there? Isn't he there? It's not really
And
fair gameplay.
yeah, and he might not even be in a ship capable of doing much damage. I mean, if you're in a cloaky expedition frigate or something, right? I mean,
Well, it doesn't matter because it's really just eyes on. So when they see you,
yeah,
then they can say, okay, guys, let's drop on this guy. He's active farming, he's active mining, he's active doing anomalies or something. Let's get in here and clean this guy out.
Yeah, often is a bunch of camper accounts, but they're always controlled by one person, or like at least that's what I've seen in Esoteria, where even though even it's one corp camped two regions, but we know that all the after behind all those like 50 or 60 accounts, there only one person is behind it. So
Yeah.
it's one person coordinating. It's not even a team thing. It's just one person solo.
Yeah, literally, you can multi-box this with several different accounts and several different systems, and you can really suppress an entire region. So one person has a real magnification of fear projection, which really dampens people's ability to utilize the territory that they've conquered. So that is away from keyboard cloaking, AFK cloaking. And it's
yeah.
menaced Eve for a very long time. Go ahead, Abby.
Yeah, I was just going to say it has been a long running, consistent threat. And you mentioned a point there where people cannot play in the space they've conquered. And this is, you're in nullsec, you're in these big blocks, you fight these big wars to conquer this space. You finally get it after months of hard work. And then some random person comes along and just ruins your ability or disheartens you and doesn't make you want to go play the game that you've done all this hard work for. It's very lopsided in its power dynamic.
Yeah, or you may have actually earned a lot of ISK and are renting space from somebody else, so you're paying for it and you can't utilize it, and there's not much that the sovereign owner can do about that. He's only there to fight wars for you. He's not there to rid you of cloaky camping. Go ahead, Shen, you were saying?
Yeah, and this is also very damaging to new bros as well. It's worse in some degree compared uh, than high-sec suicide ganking to new bros, where they have no way to make ISK in the land that we own. So basically, they have no income at all. And people just quit after this, where they move to high-sec to do missions instead of staying in null-sec.
So that's the problem. That's the scope of the problem, and just how long it's been around is years and years. One more thing about it, it has been seen as a way to legitimately come into a region and lower their defenses, because the more that people are out and about using the territory, well, picking up from where we had just described the problem. We also were in the process of saying that cloaky camping was seen as a legitimate way to soften a target by lowering the ADMs, their active defense multipliers, and basically weakening them so you could come in and kind of do the cleanup. But people have always thought this was, a controversial subject at best and had strong feelings about it. And now CCP, after they took on nullification, and before they take on ganking, which I think they're going to do, they decided to deal with this, which is AFK cloaking. And how did they deal with it, Abby?
So, wow. Yeah. I mean, mobile observatories. This new deployable structure, it is going to send a ping out throughout the whole system. So this one per system will knock out a system, and it will send out a ping, and it will have a 40% chance of decloaking a ship. Now, there is some times here, but that is essentially the gameplay. You will be able to drop a structure, and for 10 minutes, for 2 hours, every 10 minutes, it's going to send out this ping. So this is really going to affect the AFK cloaky camper. If you are having your active gameplay, you're sitting at your keyboard, you'll just be able to cloak right up. There's no delay. It doesn't stop your ability of cloaking back up. It just decloaks you once with a 40% chance. What's interesting about this module is that right now it is for low sec and null sec only. So one big issue that the wormhole community had was anything that can affect camping, and AFK cloaky camping is very different to cloaky camping. Right? I mean, the issue with nullsec was these 12, 15, 18 hour AFK cloaky campers. While if you try and tackle that, you might damage the wormhole community where you legitimately would be camped, cloaked up for 6 hours. So this structure completely alleviates that. It is not deployable in a wormhole. Right now, it's only on CC, where it is deployable in a wormhole. But that is temporary, and that will not be happening in Tranquility. So if you've seen something that shows this module in a wormhole, don't worry, it won't actually end up in a wormhole. The other thing with this module is that it has changed fundamentally how cloaking devices now work. And that's going to be a very important issue. So players are going to have to learn that when you cloak up for those first 15 minutes after you hit your cloak, whether that's a Tech 1 or a Tech 2, you cannot be decloaked by this ping from this structure. So I think that's a really nice change. If you jump into a system, you take a gate, you take a filament. If you filament into a system, you can cloak up, wait out your 15 minutes. You can't be uncloaked by this thing. and then you decloak filament back out again.
How do you know when your time is up?
It's a very good question, Matterall. So with these changes, they have implemented a new icon on the hood, your little heads-up display just above your capacitor. So when you hit your cloak, you will get this little blue icon. It is the same as a buff you would get from Lynx, like a mining buff. And it'll show you have a cloaking defense, and it'll show the timer counting down from 15 minutes. If
So
you
it's not like the
Go on.
timers that are usually at the top left. This timer sits right on top of your
Yeah,
capacitor, basically.
Yes, exactly. It's not like the top left timers. It is not like a weapons timer. You can't miss this thing. It's just above your capacitor, almost front and center of your screen, which is a really nice place for them to have put it. It's not obscure. You almost can't miss it. But you hit your cloak for the first time, you're going to get that that little icon pop up and show you, so you know now I am safe from these new mobile observatories. But once that timer runs out, you stand a risk of being pinged by these mobile observatories and decloaked. So these new mobile observatories, they're going to take 10 minutes to online. So once you drop it in space, it's going to be like a mobile tractor unit or a mobile depot. You're going to have it in your cargo. It's 100 meters cubed, so it's quite large. You're not going to be able to fit a whole lot of these. Its current price based on its input materials is about 40 million ISK. So it's not cheap either. I said it's like a mobile tractor unit or a depot, how you deploy it, but this thing is one use only. So once you deploy it, you cannot pick it up again. So these are just one shot, and then it takes 10 minutes to online. Once it onlines, it sends out that initial ping, and then it stays online for another hour and 40 minutes before it dies. So it's almost just like 2 hours of pings. Right now we have a 10 per system limit.
It means you can put 10 of these down in the same system.
Yes, and they're system-wide. There's no limit to how far you can be. If you are right on grid with it, or you are 100 AU, doesn't matter. It pings the whole system. And what's nice about these is at the current limit of 10, which I believe CCP Swift said they were open to adjusting. But with 10, if you stagger them 1 minute apart, you will basically get a ping every minute for 2 hours.
So a chance to decloak someone every minute as opposed to every 10 minutes.
Yeah. Now, that's going to cost you. I mean, 10 of these things will be the bones of 400 million. But if you really wanted to get rid of someone, what an amazing way. I mean, you could drop 3 or 4 of these. This guy is going to be decloaked. You're going to be able to combat scan him. And he's going to have to ping around, cloak back up again. I mean, you're really going to deter someone from wanting to AFK cloaky camp you all day. And these modules, just so we're all aware, they show up on the overview anywhere in system. So they're a bit like drifter wormholes or those Jove observatory things. If there's one in system and you have it on your overview, you'll see it on your overview and you'll be able to warp to it. They're also quite weak. Their total hit points is about 30,000 hit points, which is less than half of a mobile tractor unit. So I mean, like, one guy could pop these solo in a like a destroyer in no time. And you don't get an aggression timer for them, so you could like undock, blow one of these up, and then dock straight back up again.
Yeah. Also, we don't know. At least CCP hasn't confirmed that this will be allowed in parchment or not. Given the special circumstances with local, right? With so the local in parchment is the same in a wormhole system where it's basically blackout, right? There's no local at all. We don't know how that's gonna work yet. CCP hasn't confirmed anything about that. Also, just answer one question in chat. We don't know yet if skills will affect this buff. to for you to not be able to get decloaked.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Someone's asking, do you get a kill mail for killing these? Yes, you do. Yes, someone asked, yes, you can just turn your cloak on and off, and then you restart your 15-minute invulnerability timer. So a real good trick to try and avoid being scanned by someone would be if you have two safe spots and you decloak at the first one while in warp to the second one, you will be able to like cycle your cloak in warp, and then by the time you land, they wouldn't have been able to combat. If they combat scan you, they'll get you like mid ping, mid warp. So it would be a good way to just recycle your timer. But this isn't intended to combat active at the keyboard cloaky camping. Right, this is strictly to try and combat that long-term 6, 12, 18 hours of cloaky camping, of AFK cloaky camping. So this doesn't affect exploration. If you're a Tech 1 frigate exploring in nullsec, trying to do your data and relic sites to get your first 100 million ISK, this isn't going to affect you. If you are flying around doing whatever, like this is only going to affect people who are actively trying to camp a system, and this is an active way for those people to fight back. And this is the counter to that long-term AFK camping and cloaking camping.
Also addressed in the chat, talking about stealth bombers, they're extremely hard to scan down in the first place, and plus the recloak delay for stealth bombers is only 5 seconds, so it's very hard for someone to actually scan down a stealth bomber that's mid warp while trying to get the cloak back on.
What we're looking at now is some of the footage that we took earlier today. We did about 3 hours of practicing with this thing. And this is Abby. Why don't you describe what you did earlier today as a demonstration?
Yeah, so as people are asking, these are only going to be able to work in low sec and null sec. Strictly confirmed right now, low sec and null sec. These will be dropping into and will work perfectly fine. These will not work in wormholes. They currently do on CC. That's a mistake. They will not be working in wormholes. Currently, they work in Poshvin, and CCP have not decided whether they're going to allow them in Poshvin or not. CCP Aurora confirmed that for us. Rise was still in discussion. So this is me earlier on in Poshvin. We had a 3-hour live reaction stream. Some amazing people dropped in chat, and we had some great discussion. So, if you're interested in this, please go watch that chat. It was just great. Lots of great input. But this is me dropping these mobile observatories, and you'll see there on screen right next to the buff for the trig invasion is this new blue counter just above my capacitor, and we wait for that to run out, and these things decloaked me. So I was just orbiting it at 5,000, and every 10 minutes I would get decloaked. Very interesting, but it's a 40% chance to
Did
to
proximity
decloak.
to it matter at all, or is it even
No.
across? Okay.
No, proximity does not matter. It is just completely system wide. Later on in the stream, I end up completely off grid, and I'm still getting decloaked. So proximity doesn't increase chance or any of that. It is system wide once every 10 minutes, and it's a straight 40% chance to decloak you. And you'll get a little message that pops up on screen telling you you've been decloaked, and of course, you get decloaked.
As we described earlier, this is an answer for that AFK cloaking that's just been around a long, long time as a tactic, but also as a really notorious tactic. And that was the principal goal of this decloak mechanism or mechanic. They went through that, they being CCP, the developers, and even CSM, 3 or 4 different rounds of trying to figure it out. And as they would play out all the scenarios with the solution that they had come up with, at some point it would just fall apart. Like it would just not work. So this is the first time they got to a point where they could get to the end and say, yeah, this works in most circumstances. Players will probably find circumstances where this creates unfair gameplay, but so far this meets all their goals. And so now it's out, and it's out on Test Center, so people are testing it. You will see, just like with nullification a few days ago, players responding and saying, hey, this works, this doesn't work. And then CCP will or will not adjust as they see fit. But what this doesn't do is try to interfere with other types of cloak gameplay. Can you talk about some of that, or what did some of the guys talk about in the reaction stream today?
About what it won't affect?
Yeah, like what gameplay they're trying not to affect. Maybe
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're just not trying to affect active cloaking gameplay and engagement. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you jump into a system and you hit your cloak, you have 15 minutes. Now, that's before these things, if that's before there's even one already in the system. So if you jump into a system and there's one there, you have 15 minutes. If you're hunting or you're trying to get a fight or PvP or an engagement, you're not going to need longer than 15 minutes. If you don't catch someone in that system in 15 minutes, you're probably best moving on, right?
So hunters are probably not supposed to be affected if they're active hunters.
No, of course not. I mean, if you jump into a system and you're hunting a capital ship, you have, 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds to catch it and kill it. You don't have 15 minutes, so that's not going to affect you. It's not going to affect...
What about bombers? People in bomber fleets that cloak up.
Yeah, that was one issue that was brought up on the stream today. But I mean, again, you're not going to sit there waiting to bomb for longer than 15 minutes. You're going to be at a far ping, at a safe spot. You're going to be pinging around between different celestials, and you will be, cloaking and recloaking in warp. And then you will cloak up longer than 10 minutes before you actually do your initial final bombing run. And then when you decloak, you'll drop your bombs, you'll cloak back up again. You have another 15 minutes. And these things can be killed. It's going to take 10 minutes to unline them, and they can be killed in a destroyer very simply. So in big fleet fights, yeah, people are going to waste a lot of money dropping these, but they're just going to be blown up just as quickly. This isn't... Go on.
Yeah, and one last area, capital ships, they need to cloak in order to keep safe when they're traveling alone, for instance. Is this meant to interfere with that gameplay?
Yeah, this was one issue that was brought up on our reaction discussion, and this is one thing where we think CCP might have overlooked the fact that sometimes you would need to cloak longer than 15 minutes in a capital ship or a super capital. It's a very niche gameplay, but something like super capital hunting, where you're in a capital or a super and you're hunting other caps and supers. Sometimes when you're moving them alone or you're moving them through dangerous space. One of the reasons being is that when a capital pilot accumulates jump fatigue, there's two jump timers, and the red timer, the one that stops you from being able to jump again, can max out at half an hour. So there would be a situation where a super or capital could jump into a system, and they might need half an hour before they can actually jump back out again. So
scary.
15, yeah, scary, because they are sitting at their keyboard playing the game. I mean, they're going to be sitting there for half an hour, probably sweating and shaking, hoping to God no one else comes along and sees them, right? In their, what is now worth maybe 70 billion-esque ship. So that's one thing where I think a lot of the opinions on the discussion edge towards maybe CCP should give these ships a bonus where the cloak immunity lasts longer.
By the way, we just saw your ship get decloaked there. That wasn't you coming out of cloak. The there, and you're cloaking back up, but it took you out. Yeah. It took you out of cloak right there. Go ahead.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. And look, there you go. There's the blue cloak defense timer coming back up again.
So once you get decloaked, if you press cloak me again, your ship goes cloaked, and you get 15 minutes of invulnerability to this device.
Yeah, and it doesn't add a delay to the cloak. So a stealth bomber or something, some ships can cloak in 5 seconds of a reactivation delay. Sometimes it's 15 seconds for your cloak. So it's just your normal recloak. But back on topic,
Yeah.
so in the discussion, people were saying that maybe supers or titans either should be immune from this, or maybe they get a longer timer. Maybe it's just something CCP should take a look at, because there is legitimate gameplay there where supers and other bigger ships might need a bit longer to clear out their jump fatigue.
Yeah. Before.
Yeah. Also,
go ahead, Sam.
Also just add on to that, like a super has really big signature radius, and the cloak reactivation delay is also very long, so it's pretty easy to scan down compared to, let's say, an exploration frigate.
Oh yeah, you would scan one of these things down with a 16 or 32 AU hit, no problem, with a decently skilled pilot. So it is just one niche but kind of unique area gameplay that was brought up, and funny enough, a lot of people were unanimously in agreement that that is something that CCP should take a look at. But one thing I'd like to take away from this is that generally everyone was in agreement this is a great change, which I just thought was very funny. I think it really speaks to the fact that CCP and the CSM have had like 4 iterations of this recently. Yeah, there was just a lot of positivity about these changes, and a lot of people saying how this won't affect them in a negative, and this is just good for the game and the health of the game, and this will probably lead to, if anything, more people going out in space because they feel a bit safer, because they could always drop one of these things to decloak the cloaky cynoship.
Right. Okay, thanks. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover about this device? I think you've covered it very well.
Yeah, no, I think that's everything. I mean, as usual, CCP have said that they're, looking at the numbers, they're taking our feedback. Right now, these things can be deployed within range of a POS or a Citadel, which is actually an oversight. They're going to change that, so you have to be further away from these modules or from these Citadels and structures to deploy them.
Right. You're not supposed to be able to deploy anything near a certain structure. And I guess that hasn't been put in for these guys.
Yeah, and it would also allow you, like if you dropped it outside a POS, then it would be hard to kill it because the POS guns could shoot whoever comes to knock it out.
Also, just add on to that, there's also the chance that, so before the new ES has changed to what nowadays we can see with the dynamic bounty system, it was faction based. So you can drop one of this thing in a forsaken hub or forsaken rally point, where if you kill the right rat at the right time, you will trigger a lot of reinforcement fleets. It's basically that device is protected by the rats. So I don't know if CCP can address this problem with the same thing that we had with the ESS before the change.
Cool. Any overview thoughts, Shen, from you?
This is for Nosek. This is a lifesaver, I would say.
Lifesaver for who? Which the guy that lives in the system or the guy that's coming?
Well, it's for both, because for the praise, we have more space to farm, right? All those space that were camped, we can now use them effectively, right? And for those hunters, there will be more praise out there, so everyone will be happy at the end of the day.
Okay, Abby, last thoughts on this topic?
No, it's my own personal opinion. I think it's great. I think it's a really good approach to how they've tackled it. I don't feel like this is going to affect me negatively at all. And I think it is really workable. I'll just cloak, recloak. I'll jump into a different system, come back in 20 minutes, try and catch someone else. If it's not going to affect you if you don't do anything but try and camp and kill people.
Great.
And they've really listened to the feedback.
All right. Well, thanks again, Abby, for doing that. There's one more update we want to give you, and this is for, I had the wrong slide up, but let me grab that slide now. And this is something that came up yesterday. They've been making adjustments on the nullification. And there's a few things that Suetonia picked up on and relayed today through Twitter, I think, to other players. And there's a couple things. One is that T1 frigates no longer can use this nullification module. And what that does is make it so that one of the issues that people were having with this was that a nullification module could be put into a T1 frigate and put into a battleship. So when your battleship was destroyed, you fell into your frigate, and your frigate then being nullified could escape without you suffering any risk of being destroyed. And that's okay in most scenarios, except in wormholes. Part of the gameplay is to throw people out of the wormhole. And to do that, you must kill the pod. But if it becomes nearly impossible to kill the pod, that presents a problem for people who are trying to evict a group or resist eviction too. So that solves that problem. Nothing that goes into the escape bay for a battleship can use the nullification module, pretty sure. You can see down here the modules, the ships that are listed are Interceptor, Blockade Runner, the Deep Space Transport, DSTs, Strategic Cruisers, the Luxury Yacht, Covert Ops, but not the Bomber, just Covert Ops. It's a other T2 variant, and the Industrial line of ships. So Industrials can still do it, both T1 and T2, and but T1 frigates, and I assume faction frigates are off because it doesn't say anything here about faction frigates. So T1 and faction frigates cannot use the nullification module. The other thing that changed about the nullification module, it is no longer a low slot. I believe it was a low slot. Now it is a high slot. You can see that here. And that means that you're fitting this, your choice to use it is going to affect not your defense or your tank or your navigation. It's going to affect your offense, your guns, your utilities that are up high, actually, like a cloaking device. So it now strategically is in a different part of the ship module choices. So what are you going to sacrifice on offense in order to have nullification, which is a defensive module? So that was an interesting change.
Just add on a little bit to that. So for exploration, the Astero and the Helios, there are two exploration frigates that only have 2 high slots instead of other exploration frigates where you have 3. So the important thing about that is when you have 2 high slots, right now you often fit a covered up cloak and the sister core probe launcher, or just a regular T1 core probe launcher.
Well, just 1 second. Let's get this clear, because I said one thing and you said you're saying another. Can it be fit on an Astero? Because I don't think it can be fit anymore.
Not but like a Helios.
Yeah, Helios.
Yeah. So
Helios is a covert ops, right?
Yeah, it's the Galente T2
gotcha.
explosion frigate.
Okay, so you're making a comparison between the Helios, which this can fit, or this can fit on the Helios, with the Astero. Okay, go ahead.
So that means right now you have 3 high slots, right? With anything that's not a Helios, right? So you can fit those 2, like cover up cloak and a probe launcher right now with this notification device as well. But the Helios can't. So in some way, this is not balanced towards the Galente side of things.
Interesting point.
It would be nice for them to put the third high slot on the Helios, because all the other Tech 2 covert ops frigates have them. And, you're going to want, ideally, you're going to want your cloak, your probe launcher, and the ability to fit the nullification module would be great. I like that change, because these ships also cannot go in the frigate escape bay. So that would really balance them out well, I think. And the negative side effects from fitting these modules, would definitely be worth it on the T2 exploration frigates, because they're for exploration.
Also, I think, I don't know if we have mentioned this before, where right now the joint bandwidth penalty, instead of from just -50, right now it's 50%.
Oh, so instead of minus 50 points, it's actually 50%.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a big change for certain ships.
Yeah, because with -50, it meant some ships went from having some drones to none. So and now at least, right? No, I mean mining ship could have none. So at least now you'll at least be able to throw out one or two light drones and like kill some belt rats that are attacking you or something, right?
Or
Yeah.
those gate
Um,
rats. That's really annoying nowadays. When you
Well,
travel through gates.
and the
I was like,
reason for that is the bigger ships have a huge amount of points for drones, right? I think it's like bandwidth. It's like communication ability with multiple fighters and drones and that sort of stuff. And the smaller your ship gets, the less bandwidth you have. So when you get to a frigate, you can only sometimes launch one drone or three drones, depending on the ship. So if you were to knock 50 points off, I think it's 5 points per. Is it 5 points, or maybe it's
it depends on
actually?
the drone. Depends on the drone.
It
So the
depends on the
light
drone
one
size.
takes 5. Yeah.
You're right. It depends on the drone size and drone bay. But let's just put it this way: 50 was a lot for a frigate-sized drone bay, and so 50% might give you a chance to launch at least one drone as opposed to two.
one other thing as well was the warp core stabilizer module changed.
Oh, did it?
So it when they first announced the change, that had a +3 warp core strength. They've reduced
Oh,
that
right.
to +2,
That's
which
that's. I really feel like they're on the brink because 3 was too much, 2 was too little. I think like if there was, and there can't be 2.5 because these things always round up or down. So they got a Goldilocks problem here.
yeah,
That's my
I
opinion.
think so too.
Yeah, I think
mean,
they may leave it at 2, see how it goes. If people are getting killed and this module is useless, they may say, you know what, we need to go back to our original plan of 3. But what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like 2 or 3, because usually like if you have a ship, right? If you have 3 points for warp core strength, then a long point plus a short point can stop you. That's what most interceptor fits. If you don't fit a faction warp scrambler, then you only have 3 points. But 2 is too little, I feel like, in
Yeah.
some cases.
What they may do here, we were kicking ideas around, is they may say the base unit has a 2 rating, which is it's good enough for a lot of situations, but a dedicated gate camper or hunter will may be able to get around to. He may be able to get 3 points on you, and then he wins, and he catches you and disables your engines and is able to kill you. But what they may do is for faction variants possibly increase it to 3, or maybe there's a T2 variant that increases it to 3. There may be a possibility of splitting the scenarios instead of keeping them all 2. Normally they don't do that. They keep a module's like main utility the same. You just get like better fitting possibilities or better better cycles for reuse time. Usually that's where they kind of make the adjustments the higher the technology you use. And that way the module that you're using works the same in all cases. It just has the ability to fit in different ships, or you can use it even quicker than normal. Usually that's how they usually work the balance there. But here, I wonder if they won't actually split and make faction a little more effective, which would be a big deal. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, that was something that came up. Very good point there is that they all have 2, so maybe they should make the faction ones a bit work more with 3. But this came up in our discussion today with the cloak, because right now all the cloaks have the same 15-minute reactivation delay, or sorry, the 15-minute immunity from this probe ping. So maybe they could differentiate the cloaks a little bit more by giving the expensive faction ones a slightly longer time, maybe like a plus 0.2 20% bonus, and just help differentiate them and make it work more in value.
Yeah. Again, you're buying more power, and it seems like the design philosophy is not to buy more power, but to buy better options for that power. But we'll see what they do. It'll be interesting. Okay, so that's the modules. We want to get you caught up on what happened, I guess, since last week with the nullification and with the warp core stabilizers, and now with this mobile, what's it actually called? The mobile observatory, which we've been waiting for it a long, long time. There's still no picture of it, but again, once that picture gets made and deployed, we'll see it on Test Center, and then we'll see it in the game relatively soon. Any other news that we wanted to cover before we take off?
One small thing, the new gates, the new player gate event that will be coming soon, they have actually moved 2 of the gates. So if you were following this from the stream the last day, or you were checking up on our Discord, Dr. Spod found an update where they've moved the Metropolis end of the Metropolis to Nisus gate for the Minotaur Republic, and they moved the Forge end of the Forge gate for the Kalari state. I don't know. Maybe they'll continue to move them or adjust them. It's interesting, but there's still no direct high sec shortcut. There's still a low sec jump in there somewhere.
Well, my impression of the gates when they were when we looked inside of the test center and saw where they were going to be, they haven't announced where they're going to be. This is just what we saw in the test center, and it just looked like a lot of thought went into the placement. Like it really worked the way they had it set up. So I figured there wouldn't be too many adjustments, but you never know. This is going to be very interesting, and I think this is going to affect the game quite a bit.
Yeah, I guess a little bit of news on the war side. After the successful bombing run on the Imperium side, Delph is kind of quiet this weekend. As for Esoteria, AOM took over 6 more hubs from the Imperium. So
yeah.
And we had a small skirmish, I guess, with them today and on Saturday as well.
Let's take a quick look at Dotlan. Now that's good news for, I imagine that's good news for the Imperium if they basically bombed out, what were they, were they Munins? Or they were Munins, right?
Munins, yeah.
Yeah, those are T2 heavy assaults. Is that
heavy
right?
assault cruisers.
Yeah, heavy assault cruisers.
Heavy assault cruisers.
I was trying to think if they're shields, aren't they?
Yeah, so the thing with Munins in general is they're shield tanked. So that means they have a bigger signature radius compared to armor tanked hacks.
Means they show up on the radar bigger.
Yeah. You see them the same, but it's just they show up on the radar bigger.
The weapons see them as bigger. That's what that sig radius is about.
If you zoom in on the camera, it's the same. And also the removal of the roll bonus that hacks got previously with the 50% buff to like the signature radius with micro warp drive on, I think. So without that buff, right now it's the same thing with the T2 Munin and the T1 Rupture. We have a micro warp drive on. It's just 500% blown up before it was 250%.
Which means to a bomber, you look huge, and bombers do better damage to huge things. They do great damage to big structures. They do great damage to big ships. They do terrible damage to little ships.
Yeah. So let's say if you have a destroyer, you don't have your micro warp drive on. You're just there without any like special like things that blow up your signature radius. You can take one bomb without any problem.
Right. So these Munins were, I believe they were trying to leave. They went through a gate all at the same time. There was probably some lag involved there. So a lot of them got caught. There have been like 2 or 3 successful bomb runs for a total of somewhere around, let's just say it's under 500 billion. I heard an extravagant number of a billion and a half, a trillion and a half, and that number was wrong. I think I was listening to other media sources and thought that's a big victory. But I talked with the people involved, and one of them was 250 billion, and another one was maybe 100 billion or something. But all told, about less than 500 billion, which is a lot of ISK losses in T2 ships. So it's a pretty big blow. Kind of sucks for Pappy. They got wiped out twice. But more importantly, it was a morale victory for them because they really got to cheer for some wholesale slaughter against their opponents that they inflicted.
You said twice. I think it was actually like 3 times at least.
Yeah.
2 or 3
So,
times what?
No, they got
bombed.
bombed and their like fleets wiped out at least 3 times.
2 times plus 1 in AUTZ, but I think those were not Munins. Those were Feroxes, I think. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of the same thing, but not the same thing.
Yeah, they were trying to leave 3 TAC D to E TAC V.
You were
That's
in
the
that fleet,
gate.
right?
I was in that fleet. So
Okay, what
they
happened?
did, so they send out. They're really smart about it. I have to give them that. They're really, really good at this. They send out void bomb first.
What's a void
Which
bomb do?
means
Go ahead.
they energy neutralize you. So so they basically eat out a big chunk of your cap, which makes hack can't use their assault damage control. If you have assault damage control on, then you will get like 99% or like 89% like resist all across like shield, armor, and hull. So as soon as I see the bombers, I tried to press the button. It didn't work because I didn't have enough cap. And soon after that, I saw like 10, 20 bombs on my face, and then it got blown up.
On my
And
face. That is
it
really
was literally on my face.
I love that. That is really brilliant. And that is to and this is a technique that we've seen in other scenarios, but also bombers. Your first bombs take away their energy, which knocks out their active defenses. Passive defenses don't get interfered with, but for these ships, they're active defenses. So you need energy for active defenses. And the energy wasn't there to put up your defenses. And therefore, the next layer of bombs that was actually damage just did wholesale slaughter because you couldn't really defend against them.
Exactly. And plus, I think there was a lot of lag as well when the bomb sent it out. So I was approaching the gate. I was trying to take the gate. But as soon as I was ejected from the Muni, I could take the gate with my pod. So I think just like a little bit of lag, a little bit of like unlucky, I guess, all played out into this, where everyone was basically at the gate.
Yeah.
At that time.
Well, that was a good run. And we did want to then continue to Esoteria, where you had some good news on your side. That was the bad news of getting wiped out, but this is the good news. You guys are contesting pretty well in Esoteria. That's territory that Army of Mangoes is reclaiming, I guess.
Yeah, I guess reclaiming the test lost, and then we're reclaiming for them in some way.
So you weren't here. You weren't here before. You're reclaiming other people's.
Yeah, I mean we're in Omis when the land. We're kind of here helping test. That was part of the mission that we were.
We can see. We can see Test is in blue. You are in purple, and I believe this is
Evictus.
Evictus. Yeah, Evictus. Who's helping you out? Who's the other group? Evictus, and who's the third group helping you out?
Vindictive.
Vindictive. Okay.
They're in Paragon Soul.
Got it. And last time we looked, which was just the other day, you had kind of come up to this area here. Can't use my pen tool, darn it. I'm not set up for it. But you ended up taking like, it looks like 4? No, a lot more. How many more?
6. This weekend is 6.
6.
So
wow.
From VYJ down, all 6 of those.
Yeah.
We took either on Saturday or today.
Is this stuff being contested in Esoteria, or are you guys just kind of taking it back without any fights?
On Saturday, we're expecting a big fight because the fight before, the one in Tosis battle that we had before, they dropped in Minokawas and carriers on grid. So we're expecting those, and we literally had like capital standby ready to drop in as well. But nothing escalated. They didn't even show up, I think, on Saturday. So
Yeah.
And I think today before downtime, they dropped some dread on our dread. We lost a couple today, I think, in 1-4 system. But
So there's
yeah.
So there's some resistance.
Some resistance, yeah. And for the big battle today, we didn't have any people contest the Intosis until the very end, where we basically finished up, and there was like IGC plus Bastion plus Pharah mixed fleet with Munings. They got slaughtered pretty hard, I guess I would say, by us, Pandemic Horde, and Evictus.
Yeah.
So Pandemic Horde came to help. We even killed their FC at the end.
Oh, coup de grace. Well, again, this is, and you're running into like Bastion and Stain guys, right? Guys from Stain region?
Yeah, they're based in Stain before. Like Farah and Good Sax, I think.
Yeah. Okay, and so good for you guys taking over Esoteria. This is not where the big fighting is happening. The big prize is in Delve, but it does look like some progress that was made a while ago by the Imperium in these areas using third-party people and also doing it themselves. Some of that is being rolled back. We didn't see it as important at the time, so we're not going to overly see it as strategic here. Because again, the prize is in Delve. That's where everything counts for the next few months, as far as this war is concerned. Even though these are warring parties in other areas as well.
Only two. Like this one thing I will say is in Zero Tag O and DTX8, there are two test keepstars in there, and one of them got liberated last week. DTX8.
Yeah.
From being able to gem, they weren't really gemmed, but the one in Zero Tag O, that one's gemmed, and I think we took down we reinforced the gemmer today.
So those are some strategic, I guess, structures, because no keepstars went down in basically legacy space, right? Or did one go down?
I think a lot of them are under the control of like iHub control over Imperium, like the one that Brave had in GE Tag 8 in Catch, like the one we had before we took over DTX8, but they were not necessarily being reinforced. I think because if you want to reinforce a keepstar, it requires a lot of firepower, super capitals and capitals on grid, and sub capital fleets, a lot of them. So, and I think Imperium were focused on Delve and other war zones at the time, so it didn't really have that much leftover energy or super cap left over to reinforce other places.
So the reason I ask is because it feels like a lot of things were destroyed in legacy space, but I don't remember any like keepstars being destroyed, any, I guess, pivotal structures like that create a like a railroad. But bridges, those got destroyed. I think a lot of engineering complexes and everything. I mean, a lot of stuff got wrecked in legacy while the legacy combatants are over in Delve fighting an offensive war. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else then, Shen?
I guess we'll just keep pushing this week as well. Just little by little, and we're also helping out +8 time zone in Delph as well.
So the campaign continues for Army of Mangoes in Esoteria. Do you are there public plans for what happens after Esoteria if you conquer it?
That I think maybe a little bit of faith bonus with IGC. Either they're going to pay the rent or get out. I think that's the plan right now at this moment.
In other words, there are people that came into Fate who are occupying it, and they're not paying anybody rent anymore. So you guys will go, Legacy will go in there and say, look, you need to pay up if you're going to live here, or you need to get out.
Yeah, basically, that's the case.
Because they're squatting right now, I suppose.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
The land by themselves.
All right. Abby, thank you. Shen, thank you very much. And thank you guys for watching us today on Talking In Stations. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we have some more CCP coming for you this week. We'll give you more information on that as it develops. So stay tuned for some of that kind of stuff. For now, we're going to go and raid somebody, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Talking In Stations.